How many people have ever had a check engine light on in their car? Can I see some hands? How many of you guys just ignore it? How many of you guys this is a nightlight for you at this point? My sister-in-law, her name is Margot, she lived with me and my wife for a few years waiting for my brother to propose. She ended up living with us for, 8 years? 11 years. She lived with us for 11 years. They just got married 2 years ago, but she waited for a long time for him to propose, but she lived with us for 11 years thinking, she was like, I don't want to sign another lease because he might ask me to marry me any minute. And then fast forward 11 years later. But when she lived with us, there was one time, our family, we've always just had one car, and then I have a motorcycle that, I'll drive if we need it. But, we've just always been a one-car family. But there was one time where I needed to use Margot's car. And so I went up to Margot. I was like, hey, Margot, can I borrow your vehicle for the day? I need to, go run some errands and stuff. She's like, yeah, I'm not using it. She gave me the keys. And so I go to get in her car. And I get in the car. As soon as I turn on the car, it was like Christmas, every light on the dashboard is flashing at me, every single light. And there's dings, and there's pops, and there's pings, and all this stuff going on in the car. And then I'm driving the car. It's making these funny noises. It was a Cadillac. It was a nice car, but it wasn't driving very well. It drove like an old Kia, you know what I mean? It wasn't doing good. And I drove, and I was like, the whole time, I'm like, this thing's gonna break down on me in the middle of the highway. I'm just praying it gets me back home by the end of the day. And so I finally got back home. I'm wiping sweat from my brow, and I go into Margot, and I was like, Margot, your car is not in good shape. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, the check engine light's on. And she's like, the what? I was like, the check engine light. I was like, every light, all the lights, every light is on in your car. And she's like, don't worry about those things. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't want to do anything with my car. She's like, that's man stuff. I don't do man stuff. I was like, what do you mean? You got to go get maintenance. You got to go get an oil change. She's like, I've never gotten an oil change. I was like, what do you mean never? She's like, I've never in my life gotten an oil change for my car. I was like, Margot, you have to get an oil change. She goes, it still drives. I was like, barely. But the reality is she just couldn't care less. She couldn't be bothered to deal with the problems that were popping up in her car. And even when the check engine light came on, she didn't take that as an indication that she needed to go in for maintenance. And I think that the reality is a lot of us are driving our spiritual cars in the same way, aren't we? Every single light is on our dashboard. Are you with me? It's not driving as efficiently as we know that it should be. Sometimes we pull into church on Sunday and we're popping and binging and clicking. You guys know what I'm talking about. You come coasting in on a Sunday morning, you're like, thank God I made it and didn't break down on my way to church today. In a spiritual sense. There's many of us, we are just white-knuckling it, and we're just praying, God, get me through one more week. How many of you guys, you don't have to lift your hands, but you can identify with that there are lights on the dashboard of my spirit? That there are sounds coming from my engine that are not sounds that God created me to operate with. And I ask people as a pastor all the time, how is your walk with God? Do you want to know what answer I get nearly every single time that I go up to somebody and I say, how's your walk with God? Nearly every single time I hear people say, could be better. Nearly every single time, if I were to come and ask you right now, how is your walk with God? Most of you, if you're being honest, you would answer, could be better. But here's the thing. We know that our response is it could be better, but we continue to drive our car exactly the same as somebody who is where they need to be in their relationship with God. Am I talking to anybody in this room this morning? Your spiritual check engine light is on, and you might still be driving, but are you healthy? You might still be getting from A to B, but are you doing it in a sustainable way? Are you doing it in a way that is bringing life to you, that's bringing life to people around you, that is an encouragement to people that know you, that is a blessing to people that are in community with you? Because a lot of us, listen to me, as we go through life, we pull our car off the lot. We give our life to Jesus, we pull our car off the lot, and we come out and we're excited. All the lights are cleared. Are you with me? It's gassed up, the oil is freshly changed, it's got that new car smell. But then as we drive it for a while, we begin to pick up problems, don't we? We begin to find ourselves in situations that stress test our suspension, that stress test our engine. And we find ourselves in a problem of time passing and our spiritual well-being decreasing. We find ourselves in situations where we realize that we're not as consistent with our maintenance as we need to be. And our consistency reveals our commitment. How many people, you ever go to buy a car from like a boomer? Have you guys ever bought a car from a boomer? Boomers are the best people to buy cars from. Have you guys noticed? Like boomers are the absolute best generation to buy a car from. Because when you buy a car from a boomer, you don't just buy a car, you get a manila envelope with all the service records of everything that's ever happened in that car's history. I remember my parents bought a PT Cruiser about 20 years ago from an older gentleman, and he gave them, folder after folder. He even had a model of the car that he bought when he bought the car. Are you with me? Like every tire rotation, everything was documented in the history of this vehicle. Can I tell you that people like that are consistent? There are people that are like that spiritually, where they can go back and take you back to moments in their life where they met with God. They can take you back to moments in their life where they built altars to God. They can go back to seasons in their life where they asked for God to revive them once again. They can go back and tell you, these are all the times that I've served in church. These are all the Bible studies I've showed up for. These are all the offerings that I've given. These are all the prayers I've prayed. These are all the verses that I've memorized. And they got manila folder, spiritually speaking, of all the maintenance they've been doing on their lives. In a spiritual sense. But consistency reveals our commitment. There's a lot of us that would say with our lips that we're committed to God, but our consistency reveals that we're not. And then we find ourselves in situations that reveal ourselves. How many of you guys know that we can tell a lot about a people when election season rolls around? Our values are out on full display when it comes time to go to the ballot box. And some of us, we can find ourselves voting for people that don't align with Scripture, but they align with our politics. Last month there was an assassination and a lot of people responded very diversely on social media to that assassination. It revealed their priorities. See, people know you more by your conspiracies than by your convictions. More by your gripes than by your grace. And the reality about God is God will allow you to live on whatever level you settle for. Are you with me today? Like God is going to let you go. God's going to let you drive the car however you want to drive it. Are you with me? Same thing with Margot. When she came up to me and she's like, no, I've never done it. I've never done maintenance on my car. Like, I'm not like, hey, Margot, let me take your car. Let me put thousands of dollars into the motor. Let me fix it up. I'm like, if that's how you want to drive, you drive. I'm never borrowing your car again. But if that's how if you want to live on the edge, if you want to live dangerously, you go for it. But God will do the same thing for you. Are you with me today? Like God's not going to come in and force you to do maintenance. God will put you in situations that reveal that maintenance is necessary, but you are the one that determines whether or not you're going to put in the work that you need to put in order to be who God has called you to be. And when we find ourselves in those situations reveal our character, they reveal our heart, and they reveal our spiritual condition. And I'm sure that a lot of you've been in situations before where somebody looked okay on the outside. They were a Cadillac, but when you got to drive them, when you got to spend time with them, you noticed that they weren't operating the way that they needed to operate. I remember one time a few years ago when I was pastoring, there was all these ladies in church, and they were all very close-knit, and they were all very friendly. Everybody loved being around them. They were all very bubbly. And then we had this new young girl that came into church that was extraordinarily attractive. And when she came into church, all these ladies that were lovely and wonderful to be around all of a sudden became mini prophets. And they're like, I have discernment. She's a wolf. She's coming in to destroy the church. Pastor, you need to kick her out of the church. She's dangerous. I'm like, why? She's done nothing. Are you with me? And they were fine when everybody maintained a certain status quo, but when somebody else that came in that they perceived showed them up in a particular way, their character came out. They became very catty. They became very bitter. They became very judgmental. They began gossiping. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, the check engine light came on. Are you with me today? There's a lot of us, we've come from situations that were unhealthy, where there were people in ministry or in leadership that were unhealthy that didn't realize it. I remember when we started Momentum Church and we opened the doors, I met an entire group of people that all came from the same church, and they're like, dude, that was a bad situation. The reality was there was a check engine light was on that nobody took in to get serviced. Are you with me? So the situation drove people out of it. I heard a story about a pastor who came back from a sabbatical and said, on my sabbatical, my quiet time with God, God told me to leave my wife. Can I tell you that there's a spiritual check engine light that was on that he didn't go in to get maintained? When was the last time that you listened to your check engine light? Are you with me today? When was the last time that you looked at that light and said, this is an indication that something has to give, that something has to shift, that something has to be altered in my relationship with God? Because an unhealthy Christian can be an obstacle to a lost world salvation. If I don't get where I need to be in my relationship with God, I cannot expect my family to ever see Jesus. That's right. Are you with me today? Yes. And maybe the reason why my family has not come to the Lord is because the only Jesus that my family sees is me, and I've not been doing the maintenance that I need to do on my soul to show them a picture of Jesus that is attractive to them. I'm talking to anybody in this room this morning. How do we get here? How do we get, because let's be perfectly honest, if we're to ask you to raise your hands, I think most of you are being quiet right now, which means to tell me that it applies to you, okay? And the great thing is, listen to me, the great thing is that means that most of you are self-aware enough to know that there's some things in here for me, which is great. But have you ever got to a place spiritually like, how did I get here? How did I get here? How did I arrive here? How did things get to this point? You know, I was listening to a podcast recently, and the podcaster was talking about physical fitness and getting in shape, and he said, the funny thing is that most people have no idea how their bodies are supposed to feel. Most people have no idea how their bodies are supposed to feel. Like some of us, our diet is so terrible that we don't realize that this isn't how our bodies were meant to feel. We get up in the morning, we've got acid reflux all night, you know what I mean? Like, we get up in the morning, like we drag ourselves out of bed. We've got no energy. We need to have 30 cups of coffee just to stay awake. And we're like, this is normal. It's not normal. Your check engine light is on. Are you with me? How many of you guys, you've ever gone on like a holistic diet or something like that, and then, or something where you changed your eating habits or whatever, and then like 30 days in, you're like, I feel better. I go for walks and I actually feel good. Like the first time I went on a walk, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. My body's not supposed to feel like I'm dying when I move. But a week into it, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel so terrible anymore. Why? Because I dealt with the check engine light. Are you with me? The lactic acid is broken off. Like the joints are limbered up a little bit, you know? Like this is what it feels like to breathe. It's unawareness. A lot of us, we have an unawareness of what our bodies are supposed to feel like in health, what our bodies are supposed to feel like at a baseline. A lot of us have an unawareness of what our spirits and our souls are supposed to feel like at health. How aware are you of your spiritual health? How aware of you are your spiritual health? How many of you guys, like, how many of you are aware when, okay, something's not right in my spirit? How many of you are aware that, wait a minute, my relationship with God is not where it needs to be in this moment? There's something a little bit off. What would you compare it to? Let me ask you this important question. Where you're at right now in your walk with God, what would you compare it to know whether or not it was healthy? Do you have a season of your life that you know, like this is the standard of what it means to be on fire for God? And you can retreat back to that. You know, a lot of times they do that in the Bible. Like the psalmist said, return me to the flame of my first love. Are you with me? Like I gotta go back. In Revelation, they wrote to the church of Laodicea, the church of Ephesus. He's like, you're doing great in all these things, but you've lost your passion for the thing that you love first. You've got to go back to that thing. You have to have that baseline. You have to have that relationship with God, that awareness of this is what it looks like. Do you know what being spiritually healthy feels like? Because a lot of us, like we've just grown up and we've just spent so much time spiritually unhealthy that we don't even know what it feels like to be in a good place in our relationship with God. Like we've come into a relationship with God inundated with distractions, with diversions, with issues, with weights, with burdens. And so we don't know what it actually feels like to walk in the freedom that God created us to walk in. The psalmist wrote in Psalm chapter 139, verses 23 through 24, he says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts, and point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. In other words, the psalmist is saying, check my engine light. In other words, the psalmist is saying, hey, I'm coming in for maintenance. He's saying, hey, listen, the check engine light is on, and I want you to get underneath the hood. I want you to check the levels of my oil. How many of you guys remember your parents teaching you to check the levels of oil in your car? Do you guys remember growing up with that? Be perfectly honest with me right now. How many of you guys actually do that? Most, okay. I don't remember the last time I ever lifted the hood of my car and pulled out that little dipstick. Are you with me? Like, I'm like, I take it in. You know? But the psalmist says, God, I need you to search me. God, I need you to do an inspection. God, I need you to perform some basic maintenance on me. I need you to reveal anything in me that's not of you. Because let's be perfectly honest, some of us know more about cars than others, but most of us rely on a mechanic to tell us what a problem is. How many guys have ever had a bad mechanic that took you for a ride before because they knew things that you didn't know and they leveraged your ignorance against you? How many guys know when you find a trustworthy mechanic, you're like, I'm never leaving this person because I need to know that when they tell me that there's something wrong, there's something actually wrong. And when you find a mechanic that you know you can trust, you're like, hey, I need you to look at my engine, tell me what's wrong, and whatever the problem is, when you tell me, I will trust you. Why? Because I want my engine to operate effectively, and I know that you have my best motivations in heart. And that's what we need to do in our relationship with God. Like a lot of us, we need to just start praying prayers. God, I need you to reveal things in me that I don't know about me. God, I need you to expose my blind spots. God, I need you to do an autopsy on my spirit, on my soul. God, I need you to peel me open. I need you to go through every artery. I need you to go through every motivation. I need you to go through every inward thought. I need you to go through every single conviction that I hold and measure them against your word, God, and show me the things that are not of you. Show me the things that are. What is your spiritual temperature today? Are you aware of your spiritual temperature? How many of you guys have that gauge on the dash panel of your car that shows you the temperature of your engine? What is the temperature of your soul? If the Holy Spirit was a thermometer in your soul, what would it read? What would it read? What would it read? Are you fevered? Are you deceased? How many of you guys ever had a child that was sick and the child came to you and you put a thermometer in their mouth and the thermometer revealed whether or not your child was lying? Sometimes we come to God and we're like, God, I'm dying. And God pops, no, you're not. You just need to pray a little bit more. Are you with me? God, I'm dying. Sometimes we come to God, God, I'm okay. And he's like, no, you're not. You have a fever. You need to take a break for a second. You need to meditate for a while. Are you with me? Yes. What would that thermometer read? How many of you ever taken your child's temperature and you gave them an answer based off of what the thermometer said that offended your child? Like, no, you're going to school. What? I have the bubonic plague, like your child is doing everything they can to sell this like invisible fever that they have. And you're like, no, your temperature is fine. You're going to school today. And they just get so offended. Or how many times you ever have a child that's sick and they have somewhere that they want to go and you say that they can't go because they're sick and they get upset on the opposite side of that. What? I'm fine. How many people in here get offended when somebody tells you that you aren't spiritually healthy? How many people in here, you get offended when somebody says, no, you're not ready for that? Am I talking to anybody in this room today? How many people in here, you get upset when somebody says that you lack the maturity to be able to lead? How many people in here, like you get your feelings hurt, you're like, that's it, I'm finding a new church, I'm out of here, peace out, this pastor doesn't know me. These people are judgy, only God can judge me. People get really upset when you say, no, your check engine's light, it's on, and you need to deal with this right now. I remember there was a young man that came to our church a while back, and there was this situation where he got involved in some really dumb things, really, really dumb things, but did not want to accept that he was involved in some dumb things. Did not want to, and I remember sitting down with him having a very serious conversation. It's like, no, you don't understand. What you are doing, what you have done, what you're involved in is wrong, it's detrimental, it's hurting you, and it's hurting people around you. And while you're in this season, you cannot lead because you lack the self-awareness to be able to adjudicate your own bad behavior and step away from a platform. Are you with me today? So I'm removing you from this spot because if I leave you in a place of prominence, you're going to do greater damage to yourself and other people around you. That young man left church, turned everything around. It was everybody else but him, Pastor Daniel this, Pastor Daniel that, created a huge problem for himself and other people. There were people that did not have issues with the church, that loved the church, that left based off of this person's own problems. Can I tell you something today? If you are unhealthy, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody that's driving in the car with you. Are you with me today? It affects everybody that's driving in the car with you. And the reality is we all need people that we trust enough to speak into our lives to tell us, listen, I'm a mechanic and I'm looking at a problem right now. And let me tell you, you're not supposed to run this way. You're not supposed to idle this way. When I press the gas, it's not supposed to make that sound. These lights are not supposed to be on. There needs to be oil in the tank. And until there's oil in the tank, you cannot run effectively. And we need to be men and women like the psalmist who invite feedback into our spiritual condition. I need you to speak into me. I need you to speak into me. I need you to deposit into me. You need to make up your mind today on who you trust to be your mechanic. And once you find them, trust them. You've got to make some really important decisions. Because the reality is most people in the United States go to a church for an average of 2.5 years. 2.5 years. And the majority of the reasons why they leave is because they feel like there's a disconnect between them and some of the people in the church. But can I tell you something? That I believe a lot of people leave churches because they stay there long enough for people to get to know them. And just when people start to get to know them and see past the external and be able to see their consistency and their character, people, because we're in church and we're supposed to be able to sharpen one another as iron sharpens iron, we start to try to rub up against you and sharpen you and make you better. And then we get offended because I'm a Cadillac. What are you talking about? I can't have any problems. This is not a problem. And somebody comes alongside and says, I don't care if you're a Cadillac. You're driving like a broken down jalopy, and I need you to do the work that needs to get done, and this is for you, this is for other people, this is for everybody in the car with you, and I need you to be able to receive it, but we don't receive it, we get offended, and we drive away and look for another mechanic. Can I tell you, you need to find a church, you need to find a community of people, you need to find a momentum group, you need to find some leaders, you need to find some mentors, you need to have a pastor in your life that can speak the truth to you in love. And when you find that, you need to trust them. Can I tell you, there have some of the greatest blessings in my life as a pastor have been the times where I've sat down with somebody and say, hey, this is the thing that I see that's going on inside of you that you need to work on. And I've had people look at me and say, Pastor, I don't see it, but I trust you. Can I tell you, those people are going to be all right. Those people are going to be all right. Those people are going to do well because they're inviting that feedback. They're saying, search me, know me. They're going to God. They're saying, God, search me, know me, reveal even the things that are missing to me. Matthew chapter 25, verses 21 through 24 says this, you have heard that our ancestors told you, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you're subject to judgment. But I say, even if you're angry with somebody, you're subject to judgment. If you call somebody an idiot, you're in the danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you're in danger of the fires of hell. So if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember that somebody has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar, go be reconciled to that person, then come and offer your sacrifice to God. How many of you guys have ever called somebody an idiot? You drive in Houston, come on, every hand needs to go up. How many of you guys have ever cursed somebody? How many of you guys have been angry with someone? It says, so when you're presenting a sacrifice at the altar and you've got these undealt with issues, you've got this open conflict, you've got this check engine light on, you're actually supposed to just leave your sacrifice at the altar and go deal with it so that when I come back to God, I'm actually offering God a worthy sacrifice. And there's a lot of us, like we're coming into God and we're inviting God, hey, get in my car, and there's every problem in the world known to man in our car. And God's like, I'm not getting into that. Are you with me? You know, this past week we had a really a great honor. There's an organization called Team Church. They've been huge in mine and Ashley's life and ministry and pouring into us and developing us. And they did an event in Houston, and they actually asked our church to host it. So we brought some of our team in, and we served at it, and our team did phenomenal. And there was 160 pastors and church leaders that came in and were blessed that day. But one of the ways that I served was I decided I was going to go and pick up all the pastors from the airport so that they wouldn't have to get rental cars and drive through Houston traffic. I'm like, I'm going to just pick them up and I'm going to drive them around so that they don't have to stress with it. And can I tell you something? I drive a 2016 Honda Civic that has raised 3 children in the back seat. There are French fries back there. There are stains from God knows what. Are you with me? Like, we took our car in for one of the state inspections, and they drove it into a wall, so the front end of our car is, like, smashed in. The windshield wiper fluid doesn't come out. You know what I mean? Like, there's problems with my vehicle. And I wanted to pick these pastors who I have a lot of respect for up in a nice vehicle with enough space to put their bags, so I went out and rented a car. Why? Because when I picked them up, they didn't ask me to do that, but I knew that when I picked them up, I wanted to pick them up in something that was going to be comfortable, in something that they could all fit into, in something with enough room for luggage. I wanted to pick them up in a vehicle that was nice, not mine. It took some self-awareness to say, I'm not picking them up in my car. Are you with me? There's a lot of us, like, we need to look at our vehicle, we need to look at our soul and say, like, I can't worship God this way. I can't preach this way, but have this hypocritical element to my backstory. I need to go backwards, and I need to correct this problem. I need to go and repent to these people. I need to go and ask for forgiveness. I need to go and let that go. Are you with me today? I can't drive this car anymore. God is worthy of something better. Our love for God is measured by the degree to which we love others. So you want to know how much you love God? How much do you love his people? How much do you love other people around you? How much do you honor the people that God has placed in your life? Because our horizontal relationships with others will affect our vertical relationship with God and vice versa. Are you with me? If there's collateral damage in our relationships with the people around us, listen, there's going to be disconnect with our relationship with God. And if we're not where we need to be in our relationship with God, how do you think you're going to treat people around you? Are you with me? Am I talking to anybody in this room today? If I'm talking to you, say, you're talking to me, Pastor. If we're not right here in our relationship with God, our marriage is going to be off. If we're not right here in our relationship with God, our parenting is going to be off. If we're not right with our marriage, if we're not right with our children, we're not going to be right with God. If we're mistreating the people around us, we're not going to be communing with the Father well. Are you with me? There are characteristics of what it looks like to be a spiritually healthy individual. Can I share with you what they are? You guys can write these down if you're taking notes. They know who they are, and they are comfortable with who they are not. People that are spiritually healthy, they know who they are, and they're comfortable with who they are not. When you're spiritually immature, when you're spiritually unhealthy, you look at everybody else and you want to be what everybody else is, and you want to have what everybody else has. Are you with me? You know who you are, and you're comfortable with who you are not. They don't care what other people think. Can I tell you one of the worst things that you can do as a Christian is care deeply what other people think about you. Are you with me? Care deeply. When you care deeply what other people think about you, you find yourself not inviting family members to church because they might not like it if you do. Spiritually healthy people guard their peace. They guard their peace. No, I'm not going to listen to your gossip because I don't want your gossip to get on me. Are you with me? Like, they guard their peace. No, I'm not going to get involved in that. A couple days ago, I had somebody call me, and they're like, Pastor, I'm going through a divorce. I'm like, oh, man, I'm sorry. And I'm standing there. I'm sitting there on the phone. I'm talking to him. And then he's like, why do you think my wife is so horrible? I'm like, I'm not climbing into your little cauldron of despair. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting into that. And he's like, okay, let me rephrase it. Why, when you love some people so much, do they not love you back? I'm like, I'm not having this conversation. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze your wife. Why? Because I'm laying in bed next to mine. Are you with me? Like, I'm not trying to mix these topics. Are you with me today? I'm going to guard my peace. I want to have a good night tonight, and I don't want to have this conversation with you. Are you with me? You're unhealthy. You need to start looking at yourself and say, okay, what lesson am I needing to learn here? What's God trying to reveal to me? Stop worrying about what's happening on your wife's side of the street. Spiritually healthy people know how to handle difficult people. They possess a pervasive attitude of gratitude. Have you ever met somebody that's just thankful in every season? Yes. They crave the presence of God in their personal lives. They are word-focused worshipers. Word-focused worshipers. You know, at this event that we hosted this past week, one of the main speakers was a phenomenal communicator named Pastor Jonathan Brozazog, and he was talking on family and parenting. He had some phenomenal teachings on parenting your children and raising them up in the house of God and building a home that loves the Lord. And I went to pick him up from the airport, but he flew his son in from Minnesota before him, so his son got in 2 hours ahead of him. So I picked up his son and took him out for lunch, and then we were going back to pick up his dad. And as I was sitting there, I was talking to the son. I was asking him questions about his family and about his dad, and he started telling me, he's like, you know, my dad wasn't always this way. He's like, I'm 19 years old, my dad's been a pastor my whole life. He's like, but something happened 3 years ago. It's like, 3 years ago, my dad turned a corner in his relationship with God, and he realized, like, there's a depth that I haven't gone to yet. He realized, like, I preach about private devotion and all these things, and I do it a little bit, but I don't do it to the degree that I know that I should, and I need to actually start devoting myself to these things. He's like, I can trace it back to the year that my dad turned a corner, and who he is today is dramatically different from who he was before, because he was a spiritual person, but he rounded a corner into this place of spiritual health where he noticed there's a check engine light on in my life, and if I want to raise children that are going to love the Lord, I need to be a father that shows them how to love the Lord. In Luke chapter 6, verses 43 through 49, it says this: so why do you keep calling me Lord, Lord, when you don't do what I say? Dude, what a bar to start off a passage of Scripture with. Any parents in the room? Why do you keep on calling me mommy, mommy when you don't do what I say? I will show you what it's like when someone comes to me, listens to my teaching, and then follows it. It's like a person who's building a house, who digs deep and lays the foundation on solid rock. When floodwaters rise and break against the house, it stands firm because it is well built. But anyone who hears and doesn't obey is like a person who builds a house on the right ground without foundation. When the floods sweep against the house, it will collapse into a heap of ruins. How many of you guys would be honest enough to say that I've built a house for God, but I don't know about the integrity of the foundation? There's a song that we sing in church. I don't know if we've ever sang it here, Orlando, but it goes, waves came, winds blew, my house was built on you. I'm safe with you, I'm gonna make it through. Are you with me? I'm standing strong on you. How many of you guys would acknowledge that in the seasons of your life where the waves came and the winds blew, that when you knew my foundation is rock solid on the Word of God, I'm not going to go anywhere. The season around me might be uncomfortable. The storm might be significant, but my foundation is firm. I'm not going to go anywhere. I know that no matter how bad it gets, I am going to be okay. Because during the good times, you cannot tell the difference between a house built on sand and the house is built on the rock. You can't tell the difference. I didn't grow up, but I lived for many years in the state of Florida. And in Florida, everybody likes to build their houses on the beach. It's wonderful to have your house on the beach, but we know that it takes a hurricane to come through. I don't care how much money you put into that house. I don't care about the hurricane straps on your roof. The thing that matters in a hurricane is the foundation. And you can go and look at pictures of houses that were built on the sand, and you can see hundreds of houses that were razed to the ground, and there's one house standing. Why? Because it built on the right foundation. I can't tell what your foundation looks like when everything's going good in your life. I can't tell you what your foundation looks like when you're getting the raise, when all the doors are opening up, when you got the relationship, when you got the marriage, when you got the kids, when you got the house, when you got the car. But when a storm comes, That's when I know that check engine light's gonna come on. And if you haven't dealt with things before, we're gonna have problems today. And you might never know your spiritual condition without storms. The storms, they stress test our engine. So you need to pay attention to what makes you sputter. When I'm driving down the road, what is the thing that I do that causes my vehicle to operate inefficiently? I need to pay attention to that because that's the problem. And God will allow you to go through storms sometimes to give you substance. And if we learn to listen to our check engine light, we know when to pull in for a pit stop. Anybody in here a fan of NASCAR or the Indy 500 or any of those things? One person. Okay, cool. I'm not, okay? I just wanted to identify all the rednecks in the room. But when these guys are racing, they have to pay attention to their engine. They have to pay attention to how much time they've put on their tires. And they need to plan out their pit stops. They need to pay careful attention because if they don't time it perfectly, they'll find themselves out on the track with a blown tire and they will lose the race because they did not plan out their maintenance. Can I tell you today, if you don't pay attention to how much years you have on your tires, if you don't pay attention to the last time you had an oil change, if you don't pay attention to the gauges that are on your instrument panel, you can find yourself broken down on the side of the road with no help and no chance. You need to pay attention to these things because when it is impossible to exist, God is impossible to resist. When we're in a season of our life where we're like, I don't know if I can make it one more mile, those are the opportunities in life where God can actually speak to us and do something miraculous. I want to close with a story this morning about a young woman. This young woman was born many decades ago. And she was born into an unhealthy Christian family. This was a family that went to church and they went through the motions, and everybody that would look at this family on the outside would say, this family has it put together. This family is a pillar in the community. But what they didn't realize was that there was rampant abuse going on in the home. This young girl was abused viciously by her father for years of her life, while going to church, while presenting well. And because of the abuse that she suffered, she internalized a lot of that, as many victims of abuse do, and she carried deep shame. She struggled with anger. She struggled with brokenness. She struggled with bitterness. And because somebody else in her life did not acknowledge that their check engine light was on, they did damage not only to themselves, but to this young girl. And the damage that they did to her caused her to grow up with her check engine light on. And so she never knew what it felt like to go to church and be normal. And she struggled with all these conflicting emotions and all these conflicting feelings, and they led her to make some decisions that weren't in her best interest. She got married very young to escape her abusive house, and she married the wrong person who was actually pretty similar to the person that raised her and abused her. And they went to church, and the abuse continued, and the dysfunction was perpetuated. She started having children. She started going through life and still looking well on the outside, but on the inside was not where she needed to be in her relationship with God. She was unhealthy inside. Her check engine light was on for years, and unforgiveness, insecurity, bitterness, brokenness, they just continued to flood her existence, and she started passing that on to her children. But finally, she came into a moment with God. She went through a divorce. And at the end of her brokenness, she realized, I'm broken down. I can't go on any longer. I need to deal with the thing that I've been running from my whole life, that I've been avoiding my whole life. And so she came to God. She let God deal with her heart, and she ended up over time finding healing. She learned to forgive. She surrendered her pain, and God redeemed her brokenness. She ended up getting remarried, having a new opportunity at a family. She's still married to her husband today. And she started allowing God to redeem these broken parts of her, allowing God to start ministering to her life and through her life. And she started using some of that brokenness to start speaking into other people, to start helping other people find wholeness. And this woman now preaches to millions of people around the world, helping others find freedom in Christ. Her name is Joyce Meyer, if you've ever heard of her. And she moved from being shattered to significant. She moved from being somebody that drove with her check engine light on, that was unhealthy, that was not able to make a difference in anybody's life and was causing damage to herself and everybody else around her because of the brokenness that she experienced as a child. But she reached a point where she said, I'm not driving this way anymore. I'm surrendering my vehicle to God. I'm allowing him to be my mechanic, him to come in and do the work that needs to be done. Can I tell you that we are at our healthiest when God is at his highest, when we invite him to do his work in our lives. And we say, God, I can't figure it out anymore. I'm done protecting myself. I'm done building up all these walls. I'm done going through the little tips and tricks that I know to get my car back on the road and pretend like I'm functional. God, I need you to search me, know me. I need you to reveal anything that is not of you. And can I tell you something this morning as we come to a close? If you're sitting in here and your check engine light is on, it's time for you to get honest with yourself. It's time to get honest with your leaders, with the people in your Momentum home group. It's time for you to get honest in your prayers with God. Don't wait for the crash. Don't white knuckle through burnout. You need to invite the master mechanic under the hood, because when God gets under the hood in your life, he makes all things new.